Hello, how are y'all doing? Today we're going to be building a Japanese styled island pagoda area. I haven't done very many Asian themed builds, so this style is a bit out of my comfort zone. I've only done one build in a style like this so far, and I'll be honest, it wasn't very good. When I was working on the shaping of the main building, I had a few different pictures open, just to make sure I got it looking close enough to a pagoda. What I spent most of my time working on the building though, was the roofs. They tend to be the main defining feature of pagodas, so I really had to make sure that I got those right. I eventually got a roof shape though, that could basically just be simpled down into a slab pyramid. The only change you'd have to make to it is you'd have to curl the 4 blocks in the corners up. I made each tier slightly smaller as it went up. I saw this happen with a lot of the smaller pagodas, so I thought it would fit here. Since the top tier was just the right size, I decided to put this copper bell design in there. It's made using a copper block and slab, surrounded by 4 jungle signs. I'm a huge fan of the new color in the mangrove wood. It fits perfectly with the Asian style. I used this drift mangrove wood for pillars and a white gradient for the body of the building. I decided since I already used a gradient for the body, I didn't have to do too much to the roofs, so I just filled it in with dark prismarine slabs. Most of the energy from this build, however, isn't supposed to come from the main building. It's supposed to come from the terrain and the atmosphere. This is because I've been trying to practice doing a more abstract style than I have in the past. When I started this build, I already knew I wanted the pagoda to be elevated on a pillar, but around here I decided to connect some bridges off the pillar. I had the main section of the bridge connect to another tall island, and a secondary section of the bridge that was broken off. I also made some floating sections under the bridges to show that the bridges are actively crumbling. I used a light gray gradient on the bridge and had it get lighter as it went down. I usually have things get darker as it goes down because that's the way the shadows typically go, but in this situation I needed the top to contrast more with the pagoda, but still keep the light color theme of the area. It worked out well though, so I might try messing with different gradient directions in the future. It took me a while to figure out what I was going to put on the second island. At first I tried to put another building on the second island, but I decided that would take too much attention away from the main pagoda. Eventually I decided to put a cherry blossom tree on top. This fits really well with the color theme, and plus trees are just really fun to build. Also, since I already had a tree on top, this gave me a good opportunity to put a few more trees around the edges of the cliffs. I did need something a bit more than trees for decoration, so I decided to add some little structures hanging off the cliffs. I gave them a similar design to the main pagoda, but these are meant to feel more like houses than pagodas. What's good about these little houses though is I was able to use World Edit to just paste a few more around, wherever the area needed a bit more structure. For the final details, I used a lot of stained glass. Under the cherry blossom trees, I used a pink stained glass to simulate falling leaves from the tree. Similarly, I used some gray stained glass under the bridges to make it look like there's some smaller pieces falling off. I feel like having all of these falling pieces really helped to add to the bigger falling pieces from the bridge, but I would be careful if you're going to do this yourself. I found that if I have too much stuff just hanging in the air, you can make the area look really cluttered, so be careful of adding too many things in one spot. What I also did was I put some white stained glass in the water around the area. This makes the ocean around the island look a lot more turbulent, and it also gives you a reason why the bridge pieces are broken and falling off. Alright, so now that the build's finished, I want to point out a few things. Alright, so the first thing I want to take a look at is the trees. The trees are fairly basic in shape, but where it really gets interesting is in the color and blocks I used. Of course, since it's a cherry blossom tree, I'm using pink, but I feel like the pink really helps the red mangrove in the rest of the build. It helps to add a bit of contrast to the rest of the structured areas. For the leaves, I used pink wool and stained glass. The glass helps to make the tree look a lot more airy, since it's a good medium in between having a wool block there and not having a wool block there. The transparency really helps you be able to see into the tree, but there is still an object there, so you know where the tree's border is. Another thing that I wanted to take a look at was the gradients I used. I used this gradient in the more structured areas, in the pillar and in the bridges. I made it mostly using light gray colors and even going into some more white colors, which really helps to contrast with the less structured areas where I used this gradient, which is a lot darker, where I even went down into the new mud block, which is a really nice looking dark block. Also, for those of y'all who are still curious, I am still using a texture pack. That is how I have World Edit and still have the new blocks, but that does mean I am still limited in what blocks I use. I don't have all of the new blocks yet. Alright, but that's all the time I have for today. If you want to see more videos, leave a like and comment what you would like me to build next. See ya!